It's GovLove84 Aria of OSNST Limited, and I just wanted to do a quick blog regarding cannabis, my experiences with cannabis from a teenager, and how I eventually led to me developing paranoid schizophrenia in my early 20s. So I just wanted to share my experience to hopefully deter or prevent people from making the same mistakes or spotting the same signs that could lead to severe lifelong mental health problems. So cannabis is a psychoactive drug. Now, psychoactive means it manipulates and the brain's function for altering certain particular moods in your brain. Now, in cannabis, ganja weed, so you got the the chronic. I don't know the teenage slang for it now. I think they call it piff. The skunk, the big mutated plants, the cannabis skunk that has been mutated with the chemicals and all sorts of chemical substances, and it's grown under halogen light to make it really potent, and it's really buddy, lots of buds and fluffy and things like that, and there's so much THC in it. I never smoked that at first, so I'm just going to go from my experience. I'll try to keep it under 5 minutes. When we were about 15 years old, me and my best mate, we were smoking ganja. Now, ganja is what the Rastafarians smoke in the West Indies for spiritual reasons. It's what the sadhus in India smoke for spiritual reasons. Now, ganja is a natural herb. It's got ganja weed. It's grown from the earth. There's no manipulation. It's just the herb, the soil, water, and the sunlight. And that's what makes this cannabis plant, this ganja plant, ganja. It's a natural, it's a remedy, and it's known as medicine, and it's known for relaxation. Now, it's still a psychoactive drug. And the thing is, with normal ganja, regular ganja weed, it does have THC in it. A psychoactive THC, but it also has CBD. I don't know how to cannabis oil. I don't know how to pronounce it. CBD. So you've got THC and CBD. Now, when THC levels are high, CBD in ganja counters the THC, so you don't feel the full effects of the THC. So it's more a relaxant drug. It's for relaxation and relaxation only. It's not for hallucinogenic. Now, we started smoking that at first when we were about 15, 16 years old. But then when we got to older age, we couldn't really get hold of ganja anymore. We started buying skunk cannabis, the mutated, the piff, the chronic. Now, the thing with chronic, it's got so much THC in it. So much THC in it, and it's not really for feeling relaxed. It's for feeling it's a hallucinogenic. It's going to make you hallucinate things that aren't funny at all. You're going to hallucinate with your friends and think it's funny and start laughing over nonsense and dumb shit. So it's a hallucinogenic drug. That's the difference. So it's very dangerous for young teenagers who are still developing their brains to go straight into smoking a THC chronic or skunk piff substance, a psychoactive drug like chronic or piff, because it's got so much THC in it. It can trigger some sort of psychotic episode that you may not return or ever come back from, and forever remain insane. So I just wanted to share my experience. As you can see, from the age of 16, we were smoking ganja weed. So though it had THC in it, it had levels of CBD, which counters the THC effects. Now, we were smoking that for years. And then eventually we went on to the chronic, the skunk, the piff. So it sort of prepares you for the next stage. Does that make sense? It's preparing out your mind for alteration. Whereas these kids are being 16, 17, and they're skipping the ganja weed. They're not preparing their minds for alteration, and they're going straight into a very, very potent hallucinogenic drug that has so much THC in it, and they smoke it, take one pull from it, and it completely sends them spiral downhill, and they never return from it. So what I'm trying to say is, when you drop out of high school, when you go to a study center, tutorial center, with a lot of dropouts who ended up in jail, in prison, or as drug addicts, or selling the drugs, we've got to teach these vulnerable teenagers how not to do drugs. Now, it's not like you go into the study center and you say to them, this is how you do drugs. It's you tell them from the get set go, just like normal regular high school, stay away from drugs. That's the first message. Don't do drugs. Now there's going to be arse-wipes who's going to do what they want in one ear, out the other, who are going to say yes to drugs. And so when they say yes to drugs, now the study center teachers have a duty to say, now we're going to tell you how not to do drugs. Now there has to be rules and regulations. It has to be regulated, like Warren G's song Regulated. It has to be regulated. Firstly, I think skunk and chronic and piff, that big buddy fluffy fluorescent green bud, I think you should never allow them to sell it to people who are minors in high school or even college, because that's a hallucinogenic. People at that age of 14, 15, 16, 17, and they're altering their mind with a psychoactive hallucinogenic drug with so much THC, it's going to mess their brain up. I think if you are going to make a decision to smoke a psychoactive drug such as bud or a piff or skunk or chronic, the THC, the mutated plant, then you have to be at least minimum 18 years old to make that decision, a responsible adult decision. Are you going to take the risk knowing that it's a high factor that you can develop a lifelong mental illness from smoking it just once, and you have to be 18? But in regards to the herb, that ganja weed stuff, that weed, I feel 16 years old should be allowed. If you can buy cigarettes at the age of 16, I don't know if they've increased the age to 18, I'm not sure. But in study center, when they're so violent and so angry, if we can say to them, relax your blood clot and smoke your ganja weed, yeah, it's like, don't go straight into the piff or the chronic. You have to start off the ganja weed just to prepare your mind, because the ganja weed has THC that is counted by the CBD. In skunk chronic piff, there's more. I haven't done the study, I haven't read too much about it, but I think there's more THC than CBD. So you're having straight hallucinogenic, proactive, psychoactive hallucinogenics in your brain. So it's telling them how not to do drugs, how not to go straight into it. Don't just nosedive into it straight away. There's a process into it. I'm not saying that, I smoked ganja weed first and that saved me from getting mental health in my early teens from smoking a hallucinogenic like chronic or piff. I'm not saying that, because you might smoke the ganja weed for the first few years as a 16, 17-year-old for relaxation, and 18-year-old you smoke that chronic, that piff, and you lose your mind because it's got too much THC in it and your brain and your body can't handle it. I'm just saying it's rather better to take a precaution rather than going into it straight, nose diving into it, and who knows what the fuck can happen. Now in study center, we have to tell them how not to do drugs. Now my experience was, when we dropped out of high school and I was hanging around with other dropouts, we'd sit on the park bench and we'd get high from the morning, afternoon, evening. And in the evening or every now and again, we'd get a bottle of whiskey and we'd get drunk. That's what we do. Nothing with our lives, wasting our lives away. Luckily, I met a good girl who helped me to encourage me to go to college and helped me with my CV and helped me get a job. And I started working at the age of 16 years old. So when I started working, I had like a responsibility, and I no longer started smoking in the morning or afternoon. I started working from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, 9 to 6:30. And that was my productive day. And when I'd come home in the evening, I'd light one up before I go to sleep. I might meet up with my friends and we'd have a smoke, and then I'll go to bed, go to sleep, wake up in the morning, go to work, and repeat the whole routine. Now, you got to do that. If you're choosing to smoke, you've got to work to feed your habit. You can't just wake up in the morning and smoke a J. You can't smoke in the afternoon. You've got to do a productive working day before you get that privilege of being able to sit and unwind in the evening and smoking a ganja weed spliff to relax in the evening. Because if you just are one of those teenage boys, yeah, or girls, you're not working, you left high school, 16 years old, high school's finished, your friends have gone college, friends have gone to work, and you're not doing nothing. You're just sitting on the park bench with other dropouts, and you're getting drunk and you're getting high, and you're having a laugh with your mates. On the park bench, you're just having a joke, talking all your old man urban slang, listening to your drill music, having the time of your life. But as soon as you get home, your big sister's going to be in your fucking case. Your dad, your mum, your sister, your big brother's going to be in your fucking case. It's going to be like, you didn't fuck all with your life. You're fucking lay about. You're not doing anything with your life. All you do is get high. All you do is get drunk. All you do is this. And you're not doing anything for your future. And they're going to be in your case. And it's going to fuck up your high. You're going to be in a bad mood. So all you have to do is get a job. Now, when you get a job and you start working from Monday to Friday, a full-time job, yeah? We'll start off part-time, then go to full-time. When you get that job, whether it's in construction, retail, courier driver, shop retail assistant, when you get that job and you start working, and in the morning you don't smoke a spliff, you just brush your teeth, have your breakfast, you get on the bus, you drive to work, walk to work, you go to work, you have a full day at work. When you come home from work and you have your shower, you have your dinner your mum and sisters made for you, and then you sit in the back garden, you smoke your one ganja spliff, your one chronic spliff, listening to your tunes, and you go to bed. Now, your parents, your big sister, she'd rather you not smoke it, she'd rather you not even smoke cigarettes because it's bad for your health. But she'll be less on your case because she's seeing you doing something productive. She doesn't see you wasting your life away with other layabouts, just sitting on the park bench doing fuck all with your life. Now, you're doing that from Monday to Friday. You did it for a month, you did it for 2 months, you're doing it 3 months, now it's your career. And they get used to the routine where you're working throughout the day, you're being productive, you're paying your rent to your parents, and you're being a responsible adult. Now you're just coming home and your recreational thing is you don't drink alcohol. I don't really like drinking booze, but you like smoking a ganja spliff. Now there'll be less off of your case, and there will be less on your case knowing that you're working and you're providing and you're contributing, you're doing something, you're saving for your future, and your pastime is you just like smoking a ganja spliff in your back garden in the evening before you go to sleep. And I guarantee you they'll be off your case. They'd rather you be in the back garden smoking it rather than being on a park bench smoking it, getting harassed by police or getting robbed or getting into altercations with people that might stab or kill people and ruin your fucking eye. They'd rather you be where they know where you'll be safe, but as long as you're working. I'm telling you, working and feeding your habit of skunk addiction or your chronic addiction or your ganja weed addiction will be, and working to feed it will be more on, will reduce the tension in your household as long as you're working. So that's what I was doing. I was working, coming home, might meet up with my mates in the evening, have one spliff, go home, or just have a spliff by myself in my back garden or my bedroom before I go to sleep, and then do the routine all over again. Where it went wrong for me, my personal thing, is I had a lot going on at home that I was unaware about while I was at work. At work, I was having the time of my life, having such a laugh, and then I had a relationship breakdown. Well, not really one relationship breakdown, 2 relationship breakdowns, triangular, my fault. I'm not going to go into it, but it was my fault being an idiot and hot-headed and had my head shoved so far up my own arse. I was oblivious to people who I was hurting around me, people who I loved dearly, and I lost my mind. So I started smoking out of depression. And I came home, found out all the shit that was going on in my home life, lost my fucking mind, became depressed. I didn't have psychosis, schizophrenia, I just became depressed. And I was just smoking ganja weed. When I couldn't get hold of the ganja weed, I started smoking skunk again, and then I started selling it, and I had so much around me. I was making no money. I'm never a drug dealer. I'm not a drug dealer. Someone holding fucking pot of fucking gold so you can get it for your friends who need it when they finish work is not a big time drug dealer. It's just someone who's holding it. And what I had that I could have made money off, I wasn't making no money off it. I was just smoking it without cigarettes, just in tobacco, idols, I don't know how you call it, idols, just pure chronic. And eventually I developed psychosis because I'd smoke it large amounts from the moment I woke up, not working, depressed, then abusing so much large amounts. I developed psychosis, which developed into schizotypal disorder, and then was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. And I was undiagnosed for a very long time, but I was very psychotic and very crazy. I was insane. For 10 years, I spent 10 years talking to myself, just walking up and down the street, shouting and swearing, sitting in my garden or back garden at my grandma's house, just talking to myself, hallucinating, a constant hallucinogenic hallucination. And even though I'm no longer smoke, I haven't smoked cannabis since 2008, and I'm not going to return to smoking it. That was when I first got sectioned in 2008. All I'm saying is, it led to lifelong mental health illnesses that I'm still not 100%. I may be functioning, may not be clinical schizophrenic, but I'm functioning schizophrenic, meaning I'll still have that risk of falling back into clinical at any moment in my life. And yes, I have medication that keeps me stable, but you know, I'm still sick. So we've got to try to explain to these children, and parents have to look at their children who are going to copy and try to imitate what they hear in these rap songs and these movies that they watch, and try to replicate it in their lifestyle. And just, you've got to be really honest with them, and you've got to be strict with them, that don't think just because it'll take a large amount for someone to develop schizophrenia that it's going to take a large amount for you to abuse to develop schizophrenia. You can develop schizophrenia by smoking it once, taking a few pulls just once for the first time in your life as a 16, 17-year-old, trying to show off or trying to fit in with the peer pressure group, and lose your mind and develop psychological problems for the rest of your life, just smoking it once. So I'm just doing this blog to share my experiences. If you've got, you can tell, but you can't really tell, because there's people who you least expect to become full-blown drug addicts. You wouldn't have expected it if you saw them as children or as teenagers, that's how their life would end up. You don't know how a crisis is going to affect someone and how they're going to respond or escape from the crisis, whether it's alcohol or a psychoactive drug. You just don't know. So I just wanted to share that transitioning of my experiences. We used to smoke ganja weed, which has THC, but the THC is countered by the CBD, which counters that hallucinogenic effect, and you have a more of a relaxant effect. It's more of a relaxation ganja weed. But then you have the bud, the chronic, the skunk, the piff, which is a mutated plant which has high levels of THC, and I think it has more THC than CBD, and then that hallucinogenic psychoactive drug creates a hallucinogenic experience within your brain, and that can lead to really severe lifelong mental health problems. So I'm just telling these kids, wait until you're adult to make your own choice, at least 18, and if you are going to start smoking, and if you are going to do it, don't go straight into the chronic and don't go straight into the piff. You have to start off with the ganja weed just to prepare your mind for alteration. And when you get older, you have to work your 9 to 5 job and work to fund your habit. You can't go robbing people, stealing for your family, or doing credit card scams. Fuck all that shit. It's not worth the headache. Work, and then you'll see your big sister who's on your case when you're not working. You'll see her get off your case. You know what I'm saying? Peace.